Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports for another Storm post-game report. It is just me again. Sorry. Again, the timing's been tough. Hoping that I imagine after the Golden State game, we'll have more than just me. It'll be great for a lot of folks. I'll be happy to see that. But not a happy one to recap. Not a happy one. I thought that watching this one that Seattle would go up to 14-8 and be knocking on the door of the next few teams in front of them in the WNBA standings. Nope, not at all, my friend. Would have had them tied in wins with the Liberty and the Mercury, but Seattle's failure to close games out helps them lose this one. They didn't start too well either. They had a good push in the third quarter, but the fourth quarter they had opportunities for them to they handed them as well to be able to pull ahead, take a lead late. It was an ugly end of the game because Seattle wasn't able to convert. They turned the ball over a bunch. So did Washington. So Washington kept them in this game. Um, and unfortunately, it did not end up mattering. I have to admit, I don't have the most details on this game. I was covering the AUSL Athletes Unlimited Softball League, women's professional softball here in Seattle. The league's doing a tour around the city, and I thought it was important to cover that and be there in person for that because I was the only media really there all weekend, which is disappointing. Circling Show Sports was the only outlet there every single day, um, and I got pretty burned, as you can see. But we'll go on with it. I still saw I kept up with a bunch of this game. They're very frustrating. Which doesn't change too much from how they've been as of late, which is fascinating because just like a week ago they had won. Um, they had won. hmm, They had won. Got it. They won against the Liberty on the road. Sorry, totally butchered that. Um, but yeah, we go into this one. I was a little worried because at the end of the game, the last game, Skylar Diggins was kind of holding her hand or shoot her left hand, sorry, her shooting hand. But pre-game, Coach Quinn said it was fine since she had kind of tweaked it on the contact with Bria Hartley, but she was fine, good to go. So nothing to worry about there, which is nice. Um, but this first quarter, whole game was damn frustrating, that's for sure. Um, just slow start. Seattle scored just 10 in the first quarter. Washington didn't do much better, but they were leading 16-10. Seattle shot 3 of 18 from the field. Um, Kiki Ariafen played well throughout the course of this game. Nneka Gumake led Seattle with 6 points. So, unlike the Connecticut game, she was able to start off a little bit better, but still not a ton. So, um, hmm. so yeah, we'll get into it. This just the frustration. I'll talk about it. Let me get through it. Um, it's fascinating too with Tiffany Mitchell. I know she was somebody that a few fans were kind of like, "Hey, why do we need another guard?" You've got insert your list of the bench guards and Cook and Brown. Um, but we obviously need more than that. And Tiffany Mitchell's been bringing that in the past two games. Mitchell has scored the team's first bucket at the rim. Um, so hey, there you go. Um, Just ugly starts. Yeah, ugly starts. Back-to-back games where Seattle had failed to score more than 10 points in the opening frame. That's just not going to cut it. You can't be chasing games all the time. Um, NECA and Tiffany Mitchell, the only players to make a field goal in that first quarter in this one. So another good game from Ezi Magbegor in this one. Hit a three-pointer in the second quarter. We'll talk about Ezi because there was some interesting stuff in the post-game press conference about her. But Tiffany Mitchell really showed out in the second quarter. Two-way game was great. She had a team high plus 9 minutes in just about over team high plus nine in just over 8 minutes. I can speak. In that first half, kind of weird. In the first half, Dominique Malonga didn't play much at all. It was like three or less. It's very weird that it feels like Tiffany Mitchell has eaten some of the minutes that Dom normally gets. don't like that. That's another thing we'll talk about. Another thing that was pretty paramount in this game, and it's been a paramount present, apparent all season, is how much this team can struggle offensively when Skylar Diggins isn't on the court, let alone not handling the ball. But anyway, um, you know, there's a 23.4 swing in the team's offensive rating when she's on and off the court. When she's on the court, it's a 107.2 team or offensive rating. When she's off, it's 83.8. That's bad. Defensively, when she's on the court, 97.1. When she's off it, 105.3. So, I mean, I think I talked about it in the last episode, just Skylar's importance. And, you talk about a potential MVP candidate. When she's like, you talk about most valuable player, obviously, there are very, very qualified players, Alyssa Thomas, Feature Collier, Alicia Gray. Like, yes, but I do think that Skylar Diggins should be up there considered with some of them as well because of the value that she's bringing to this Storm team. So, um, at the half, Seattle trailed by three, just an ugly 31-28 at the time, which I mean, a little bit better. They won the second quarter 18-15, but still trying to climb back. Unfortunately, Ezi at the half led Seattle in scoring with 9 points, a steal, and two blocks. So three stocks. NECA 8 points. Tiffany Mitchell 4 points in the first half. Not something I'd expect. It was kind of interesting on the broadcast. Noelle Quinn said that after the first quarter and how ugly that start was, just the 10 points, she told her team to wake up and come to work, which is something that we've heard a few times over the course of the last two seasons about how the teams needed to wake up, lock in, use your different words to describe that or get the team going, sort of thing, right? Um, just the starts have been really bad in their last five games, averaging 37.4 points in the first half, which is second worst total in the WNBA. That's bad. Obviously they're 3-2 in that stress. They probably should be 5-0, but probably doesn't help. So, just really ugly to see that. Um, it was a better second quarter, yes, but still just so much that could have been going better. In this one, Seattle did have an 11-0 run in the third quarter, which was good to see. You kind of start to chug along here, but it's obvious that, whether it be the first half, failures, the first half frustrations, as well as some of the collapses in the fourth quarter, like the stalling, which I think we talked about a lot last season as well, and into the playoffs. The offense can struggle. Um, Through 20 plus games this season, Seattle's offense has changed a bit compared to last year. Um, it's interesting to not have Ezi and NECA maybe as integrated into the decision making offensively, which, hey, I mean, Skylar Diggins can provide you more of that. That's great, but you've got to be able to account for when she's not on the court as well. She can't play all 40 minutes. I'm sure she could. Skylar's very determined. She's very strong, but shouldn't have to, is the point, right? Yeah, that 11-0 run in the third quarter. They had a 14-7 run in the last 5 minutes to take the lead going into the fourth quarter. Nice 27-16 quarter. So you jump ahead. That's great to see. This is when I'm thinking, okay, they're clicking, they're waking up. Here we go. Um, they looked pretty good. Ezi continues to look good here. Tiffany Mitchell, 10 points off the bench. And DT's leading scorer was rookie Sonia Citron with 10. So I think, okay, they're clicking, they're waking up a bit. Not a great start, but the third quarter, they've had some good third quarters throughout the course of the year. I think I talked about last episode in the second half of the third quarter, they really started to get going so they could pull away from Connecticut. So I mean that seems to be a theme as well. Um, but another issue when we talked about the bench all season long, Dominique Malonga had just over 3 minutes going into the fourth. Bad. And we have one commenter in specific who always brings up Alicia Clark and Lexi Brown and their frustration with those two players. And they're not wrong. I just they're not wrong in their frustration and how upsetting it is that those two aren't producing, especially given the contracts that those two are on. I don't know how Seattle will legitimately because just cut them or trade them. Who is accepting them in the trade, right? What are you getting if anything in the trade? Um, and you can't really just cut them. So, Alicia Clark, to emphasize that point though, Alicia Clark is 3 for 24 on 3 pointers since June 20th. In 8 of 9 games, she hasn't scored 8 points or more 8 times. And she's averaging just under 17 minutes in that span. For someone who, we talked about it in the offseason when she was signed on a Storm Roundtable episode. We talked about it throughout the course of the season. Someone who was signed to be a veteran, to be a leader, who in the starting lineup to begin the year. Um, I understand that she's the oldest player in the league. We know that. But again, the emphasis on media day and through the preseason was that she was going to be important. Talked about having an increased responsibility offensively. That hasn't happened. You know, it just adds to the frustration. I hear it. I understand it. I just don't know how Seattle's going to be able to get out of that mess, right? Um, Continuing to talk good things about Ezi. She has at least 2 steals and 2 blocks in 3 of her last 5 games. Her team seems to be warming up. Um, so she had a season high in this one, 19 points for Ezi. But yeah, ultimately down the stretch, Seattle wasn't able to take advantage of some really like golden opportunities because it seemed like Washington was able to just sort of Washington kept turning the ball over. They weren't able to convert, really put this game away clearly. So Seattle was in it really until the very end. Um, just some tough turnovers, poor execution offensively. And, it seems like relying on your starters too much. A lot of your starters seem gassed through the course of the end of these games. Through the end of these games. Um, and this is something we've talked about for weeks and for months now, right? I mean, you've heard me talk about it. You've heard Rowan and Christian talking about it. So, um, Seattle was ahead by 10 early into the fourth quarter. Washington went on a 6-0 and then a 9-2 run and pulled away and, really didn't look back. Seattle blows a 10-point lead in the final period. Seattle loses by a final score of 74-69. Just pretty frustrating. Again, another big frustrating fourth quarter. The Storm allowed 27 points to the Mystics in that final frame. That just can't really happen. Seattle had the lowest point total on the day on Sunday in the WNBA, which not great. We talk about all these different things offensively and their struggles. Um, just really not great. Ezzy did have a good game though. 19 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Um, NECA, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 5 for 15 from the field, though. Tiffany Mitchell, bright spot, 12 points, 2 steals, 5 for 7 from the field. Skylar Diggins, 10 points, 4 assists. Tough night shooting as well for another one of your all stars, 4 for 14. Gabby Williams filling up the stat sheet, 6 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, but 2 for 9 from the field. All three are all stars really struggle shooting wise, but that's going to happen. And you need more from the rest of your team in those instances. Skylar, NECA, and Gabby cannot carry this team on their own backs through 44 games and then playoffs. That's not sustainable. To winning a championship, that's not real. Um, Very weird. Seattle starting lineup played 15 minutes in total in this game, had a -3 plus minus. They shot 6 for 24 on 2 pointers and 37% on 3 pointers. So tough shooting night. Um, someone said, oh, something about not expecting to win when your starting five all have bad nights. You can't have your starting five all play poorly. It's not realistic, not realistic in terms of being conducive to winning. So another big thing in this game, Gabby Williams, like a minute or less than a minute left, was limping and said she couldn't go back in. Um, she has to be subbed out, which if you know Gabby, her intensity. Did I say that twice? Yeah. Um, Hardly ever see her do that. So that's really tough. Noelle Quinn um, said that Gabby asked to be subbed out at the end of the game and couldn't go back in. She believes it's a reoccurring issue, which isn't great. And Quinn's at the time of the post-game press conference hadn't spoken to staff yet. So, um, yeah, we'll go through some of the post-gamer stuff. As you Magbegor said, I think just not being able to capitalize, make good plays, and get stops as well. Yeah, talked about that. Talked about it being a fourth quarter game, not starting too well. That's right. Um, Mm, 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 Talked talk a little bit about the inconsistencies. It's our first quarters. It's setting the tone for us in games, and it's not a good time. In the fourth quarter, we're turning the ball over way too much. Yep. We're not doing anything offensively. Yep. Not shooting it well. Yep. So, the big thing we'll talk about Ezi. This was a great game for Ezi. I saw an idiot who claims to be a Storm writer say that, the when will Seattle bench Ezi Magbegor and start Dominique Malonga? Like I talked about last episode, Dom's not playing center unless they go small ball like that. They're not doing that. Um, and you're also seeing why I thought that was so stupid because you're seeing Ezi having these great games since then, seemingly. Um, season high 19. But what was interesting was what Quinn said about Ezi turning the corner lately offensively. Noel Quinn in the postgame press conference said he's getting healthy. He won't admit that, but that's the first thing I see. We didn't know she was hurt. I mean, given how she's played year round basketball, right? Played obviously last season, played the Olympics, played overseas. Like she's been going nonstop. Noelle Quinn wouldn't touch on what Ezzy was dealing with, but obviously she's been playing hurt. I believe we wondered about that um, during a few of the episodes, whether it was Storm Post Game Reports uh, or the Storm Round Table. But just kind of fascinating to hear that as reality. Um, and I wonder, you look at the other side of things. Quinn did talk about, she was asked about the slow starts and some of the starters not producing as much. She said there is a fatigue factor that is setting in, but at the end of the day, we have to be professionals and show up and be better. Talk about fatigue, sure, I understand that, but when you give Dominique Malonga 3 minutes, give Zaya Cook 3 minutes. You don't play Mackenzie Holmes at all, which sure you don't play Zaya Cook, not Zaya Cook, Lexi Brown at all. It's not good. Tiffany Mitchell, 23 points off the bench. She played 20 minutes in the last one. She's getting some well-earned minutes. I just don't think, Tiffany Mitchell getting these minutes should cancel out some of the Dominique Malonga minutes. It's just unacceptable. We've talked for weeks and months about the usage of Dominique Malonga. And, when you've got starters who are getting worn out, getting fatigued, and, Skylar and NECA are great, but they are older. They are up there a little bit. So you have to be uh, willing to give them a break. You have to be able to keep them fresh and keep them ready throughout the course of the year, right? You talk about Gabby Williams, and the amount of minutes that she's playing, the amount of basketball she's played over the last, she also, like Ezzy, played the season, played overseas, played in the Olympics. Like, it's a lot of basketball. Um, so, the fatigue is real. They experienced it last year. So I'm just quite worried about this. It's something I'll continue to bring up because it's a real issue. Uh, so yeah, you got to be worried about it. Christian, our writer Christian, brought up some great numbers on talk about the minutes and the usage. Gabby Williams is second in the WNBA in minutes played. Skylar is third. NECA is sixth. Ezzy is 22nd. Erica Wheeler is 26th. Alicia Clark is 60th. Um, a lot of it's self-inflicted when you talk about that fatigue and these issues here. It's not good. It's pretty worrisome. Um, yeah, Seattle's got no one really to blame but themselves. The coaching staff, that is, for this. But yeah, it is interesting. A few big things that stick out to me about this game. Ezzy's great performance, but specifically the getting healthy thing. Like we hadn't heard much of anything in terms of her being hurt or dealing with an injury throughout the course of this season. So that's fascinating. Um, it's not good. Um, so I'm pretty worried about that. Oh, sorry. My arms still all burnt up. It is kind of funny that Dominique Malonga, in terms of rookie stats, leads rookies in field goal percentage at 50%. Um, she's only got 6 games where she's played more than 10 minutes, though. So got to wonder what. more she can do, with more opportunity. But I just don't know if this coaching staff will be able to adapt to that and, let Dominique Malonga grow a little bit more. Take the leash off. Take the reins off and say, hey, go ahead. Like we need to give NECA some time, to rest. We need to give Gabby some time to rest. Like it's just not sustainable how they're playing this. And they're seeing some issues with it right now. So, Seattle's shown that they can beat the top teams in the league. They've already done it, right? Um, so you've got to wonder when the staff will realize, hey, we have to take care of the players here. We have to take care of this roster so that we can get through this 44 game season. There's still a lot of games left. Um, and be able to, make a deep playoff run. Of course, this roster has championship aspirations, right? So I'm worried, you guys. I am quite worried. I don't feel great about it. And I don't, people want them to get Elisa Peely. I'm like, because she was released by the Lynx. I'm like, sure, but how much would Seattle really play her? Yeah, you want all these players, but Seattle's underutilizing the ones that they currently have on their bench. So yeah, I'm quite worried. I'm quite concerned. I'm raising the alarm bells with the Storm because, again, I feel like the Storm are the team that I believe is the closest to winning a championship this season in Seattle amongst the professional teams. Okay. Um, but they're hurting themselves in that regard. The staff is with how they're handling the minutes for these teams for this roster. Um, so yep, that's my worry. That's my worry. So that is game two of this 4 game homestand before the game two of this 4 game homestand. Next game is the Kids Day game, if I remember correctly, against the Golden State Valkyries, the now 10-10 Golden State Valkyries, who Seattle has gone 0-2 against so far this year, but both games were in the Bay Area at Valhalla. So see if playing in Seattle will change things up. Yeah, it is the Kids Day game. Wednesday, July 16th, 12 o'clock start. So, excuse me, noon start time. This game's only on local TV on the CW Seattle. Um, have to wonder if Seattle's going to be able to kind of, you know, get the Golden State, struggles off of their back there. Look at Golden State. They lost their last game by 2 to Vegas. They've lost 3 of their last 4, but they've played really good competition. Lost to Minnesota by 9, lost to Atlanta by 9, beat the Mercury by 19. Nice. But lost to the Aces by 2 there on the road. They've been on the road here for 4 straight games. They do play tonight against the Mercury, so they'll get 1 game back at home before they go out to Seattle for this Kids Day game, and then they've got 9 days off between games. Wow, that's pretty nice. Seattle doesn't really get that luxury. They get 6 days off after the Golden State game before they host Dallas on the 22nd. But so, yeah, man, let me know what you guys think. I'm always happy to, have conversations in the comment section as long as they're respectful. I mean, if you think I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, sure, I wouldn't disagree with that. You don't have to say it. I'm happy to talk about the Storm and their issues, have reasonable conversations. So, yeah, feel free to let me know what your thoughts are. If you're concerned, if you're not, how you would manage the bench. I know people want this team to go out and get players, but they're tight against the cap. So unless they're somehow able to offload contracts, I don't think it's going to happen. I think you're kind of set how you are. So anyway, until we see you next time. Yeah, should be able to do the Kids Day game. I think at least have Rowan. Rowan should be at the game with me on Wednesday. So yeah, until we see you next time, take care of yourselves, be well, do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, were you going to watch the Seattle Storm away games this year?
Away games. Well, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports. So I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See you all here.